Good morning, and thank you for listening to another episode of the CEO Story. And we have a fantastic one for all you viewers and listeners today. We have Enoch Leffingwell, who is quite a unique character. So, Enoch helps mentors get paid for giving their advice, as well as being a best-selling author, as well as learning from some of the best people in the business, from Myron Golden to Brendan Burchard and everyone in between. So Enoch, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. How are you doing?
Absolutely. I'm doing fantastic. Each day is getting better than the last. I'm so glad to be here. Good to see you, Casey.
Yes, definitely. So we want to do a quick shout out to our sponsors for sponsoring the podcast. We have two of them today. We have Together CFO. So thank you so much for saving high net worth people money on their taxes. And we have Rolls Royce of Pasadena, Rusnek. So thank you so much for sponsoring the podcast and allowing us to bring amazing speakers like Enoch on. So Enoch, for the people who aren't familiar with you and your world, can you just share a little bit about what you do and how it works?
Absolutely. So what I do is I help mentors to get authors, coaches, speakers, and other high-level entrepreneurs to get paid a premium for their advice by especially crafting a signature speech, one presentation that they could share on 3,000 different platforms without losing its power of persuasion. And I do that through the courses, books, and an implementation workshop to really dig deep into your messaging, extracting your signature stories, and being able to share an infinite sales message that just continues to keep giving as a speaker or someone who's getting paid for their advice.
Fantastic. So that sounds really cool and very interesting. We will dig into how you got there. But let's kind of back up a little bit, because you've been an entrepreneur since you were really young, around 10 years old, and
That's
done
right.
many things, both great and some failures along the way. So kind of let's talk about your journey, some of the struggles, and then how you broke through, and really digging into your mindset to get to where you are now, a super successful entrepreneur.
Yeah, so like you mentioned, I've been an entrepreneur since I was 10 years old, and I've been fascinated with digital marketing since I was about 12. And there's just something about being able to solve a solution to people's problems and being able to learn how to get that solution to the masses through marketing that has always interested me. And throughout my journey, I guess it's been about 17 years now, I've had about 15 failed business attempts.
Wow.
And there was a 16th business attempt that finally was able to take off to become a six-figure family business. And when I look back at those 15 failed attempts, one thing that made the biggest difference between the first 15 and the 16th was really finding a mentor, having a business mentor who's already found their fortune, who is where I want to be, and then learning what they were doing. And once I started to apply those principles that I'm learning from my mentor, that's when things really started to change in my experience.
Yeah,
so,
I think that's some great advice. And Tony Robbins says this a lot, as well as many other coaches, mentors, and what have you, is that find the right person that's been there, done that can accelerate your path to success, that's kind of worn the t-shirt and can help you fast track because they've been through those pains. So that's all good and well, and I think most people have that as an idea. But can you give us some tangible steps on how to find an actual mentor that has been there and done that, and what has worked for you and for your clients in the past?
Yeah, most definitely. I would say that there is about 5 steps for getting anything that you want in life and finding a mentor. Is number one, you have to get extremely clear on what it is that you want in life. Because without a vision, the people perish. And a lot of people are confused about where they're going, what they want, and the things in life. And really, whatever mentor that is available to you doesn't really matter until you're really clear on where you're going. And then once you get clear on that, number 2 is to find someone who has the results that you want. So many people take advice from people who don't have those results, or they take advice from, it's like sometimes we have well-intended family members that want to give us business or financial advice, and they've never ran a successful company. and that's doomed to repeat some difficult times. So find someone who has the results that you want, and number three, pay them whatever they charge to find out what they did. And that's either going to cost, you're going to pay in time or you're going to pay in money. And if you want to go fast, then you want to pay in money. But if you want to go for free, it's going to cost you your time. So either way, it's going to cost you something. But what I have realized is paying with money, with investing in books and courses and masterminds. Those are some really fast ways to accelerate the results that we're looking for. And then number four is to do exactly what they did. And I say that exactly because a good mentor is going to give you advice that is counterintuitive to you. Because if it already made sense, you'd already be doing it. So 90% of good advice is not going to, it's going to be counterintuitive. And when we're aware of that, then it really helps following the steps or learning something different. The reason why our mentors have a different result than us is because they have different beliefs. They've done different things. So when we adopt that advice, we're more likely to replicate the success of others. But when we're like, nah, that's not true, it doesn't work that way, then we're going to continue down the same results that we've done. And the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. Nothing changes if nothing changes.
Absolutely.
So the fourth is to do exactly what they did. And then the fifth is continue until you have the results that you want. And that could take some perseverance, but it's going to be worth it.
Absolutely. So some fantastic tips there. And thank you for sharing all five of them. I totally agree with you. One of the first things I do every year and then every quarter after that is to have a very clear and defined goal list. I have a vision board. I do visualizations and meditations and have a whole morning routine. So I'm very clear and purposeful on what success looks like for that day, week, month, year, and then all the way out into the next 25 years. So I can really subconsciously bring that into my own awareness. And then some of the other things that you mentioned was to find someone who's been there and done that. Absolutely agree with that. That makes perfect sense, because you don't want to it's better to buy other people's mistakes than make those mistakes yourself.
Absolutely.
And what are you willing to sacrifice is really what I heard, is because whether it's time or whether it's money, there's always going to be some form of sacrifice to get to that end result. And what are you willing to give up to get there? And the last point was really, really valuable, is don't give up too soon. I think a lot of people were so close to success. Like you mentioned, between your 15th and 16th business, if you hadn't tried, if you gave up at 15, you would never have got to that success at number 16. And look at Colonel Sanders. There's no age limit on this. He went to 1,000+ doors, got a no, and then the next door was a yes. So having that perseverance, I think, was a great word that you used. I really liked a lot of what you mentioned there. So when people are feeling down and they don't have that right environment or they don't have that right mindset, what are some of the things that you've seen people do to kind of snap out of it and get into more of a positive frame of mind?
Yeah, one of the things that I find is that a lot of times when people are struggling, most struggling entrepreneurs are looking for answers. When I find the most successful entrepreneurs are looking for questions, because a lot of times when you find the right question, then it automatically has the answer. And the quality of our life comes down to the quality of the questions that we ask ourselves. So when we change our question, we can change our lives dramatically. And one question that we often ask that leads to really struggling and brings our mindset down in this spiral, it's like, well, what if we could be starting a project or starting a business, or we ask these questions like, what if it doesn't work? What if I do all of this effort and it does not work? But the truth is that all work works. As in Proverbs, it says, in all labor there is profit. So it's impossible for work not to work. There's a work that it does on us, and there's a work that it does for us. And we think that if the work that we're doing doesn't work for us, then it's not working. But that if the work we're doing is not working for us, that means that it's working on us, and we have to allow the work to work on us until we can become the person who can do the thing and have the results. So that's instead of asking, what if it doesn't work? Start asking, how awesome will this be when it works? And what would you do if you knew that success was inevitable? If you knew that you could not fail, how would you show up in your family, in your business, in the new project? What would you do differently? What would you say? And then go do that. That's some of the changing the questions. One powerful question that I would suggest to get people out of a rut.
That's really, really powerful. And ultimately, what I'm hearing is you're changing the lens and you're asking yourself better questions to put you in a state and you kind of future pacing as if you've already done it and already achieved it. And that's a lot of what I do on a daily basis with my visualizations is how does it feel? What does it smell like? Can I touch it? And kind of actually be in that moment where the goal is actually accomplished already. And then it's just a matter of time to catch up from reality to that visualization. So I really like that a lot. So tell us a little bit more about Company 16 and how you got to where you are now.
Yeah, so what happened was I was in, before I was a poor missionary, homeless, living in my car. And as I was doing some mission work, I met these entrepreneurs that were doing some work over in Washington, D.C., and they were also really mission driven. And as I talked to them, I'm like, how are you able to attract such talented people? How do you have so many different resources? And they explained to me how entrepreneurship taught them so many lessons that were transferable to be able to contribute to causes they care about. And I'm like, wow, I want someone. I started praying that God would send me someone who understood entrepreneurship, who was as like mission driven as I was, and who'd be willing to mentor me and was interested in health. And as I got really clear, like we were saying, describing exactly what I wanted, then I started to be introduced to people who were in the health and wellness space. And one of them showed me how I can start an online health food store. And as I did, he introduced me to some millionaire mentors who started showing me what I can do to start taking off. And as I was starting to grow in my business and building a team and in my communications, then there was people, like I had millionaires that were coming to me and like, what are you doing to grow? Like, how are you growing so quickly? And as I started to kind of coach them or just reveal to them my process of what I'm doing, they started telling their friends. They're recording my trainings and going live on their shows. And I'm like, wow, well, maybe there's something to this. Maybe other entrepreneurs would be interested too. So in 2017 is when I started to start coaching other entrepreneurs. And since then, I've been helping them with like writing books and speaking and starting their online businesses. And it's really been a blast because after speaking professionally for about 9 years now, I've been able to travel the nation and internationally, and the lessons, the experiences I've gained have been so rewarding. But now to be able to transfer that, there's nothing like serving entrepreneurs, people who are messengers, who have a message to go impact the world. So it's very rewarding.
Really, really interesting. So what I'm taking away from that is you found some mentors, increased your quality of your circle, but ultimately you were adding a lot of value, because if they weren't interested, if they didn't like what they heard, they wouldn't share it with their network. And that kind of started the avalanche and the ball rolling, so to speak. And from there, you kicked on into a few similar verticals. But ultimately, if we boil it all down, it's the value that you were adding with, in this example, it was the e-commerce side of things, but then that exploded into having a system and a process that you could help teach people. And then that was helping them get what they wanted, which was engagement, likes, and kind of social media authority, so to speak, as well as being on stages, as well as sharing their message. So
absolutely,
all boils down to delivering more value. The more value you offer the marketplace, the more ultimately you're worth as well, right?
Most definitely. And I would define an entrepreneur as one who finds and solves a valuable problem. And I say valuable because not every problem pays the same when it's solved. So you want to find a valuable problem that the marketplace defines as valuable. Most entrepreneurs think that One of the biggest mistakes entrepreneurs make is not knowing what business that they're actually in. For instance, if someone's authoring books and writing books, they think they're in the book writing business. But in reality, you're not in the book writing business, you're in the book marketing business. Because it doesn't really matter how many books you write if nobody knows that they actually exist. So realizing whatever the product is that we have or the solution, you're not in that solution delivering business, you're in that solution marketing business. And when we understand that all entrepreneurs are marketers, then it starts to really help us to shift our focus to things that really add value in the marketplace.
Absolutely. No, that's really, again, back to the lens and how you're viewing things, right? And making sure that you are focused on the right thing and you are seeing things as they are and not worse or not better than they actually are. But taking that on actually. So that's actually a really good segue into talking a little bit about our sponsors, Together CFO, and they actually add a lot of value on how you can save money on taxes. They have a tax calculator on the website, togethercfo.com. We'll put the link below. And you can see how much you've been overpaying on taxes. Over 95% of people are overpaying on taxes. And this is one great area where you can instantly save money if you're one of those 95%. So go check out their website. Enoch, tell us a little bit more about how people can find you and follow you on social.
Yeah, one of the best ways to connect with me is through my book, the best-selling book, I Want to Mentor, Now What Do I Do? It's for authors, coaches, speakers, and other high-level entrepreneurs to show them how they can find a mentor and be a mentor. And if you want to contact me, then go to iwantamentorbook.com and you can grab a copy of the first 3 chapters, and there you'll be able to see how to connect with me on social media as well. iwantamentorbook.com.
Okay, iwantamentorbook.com. We'll put the link below as well. And everyone who's stuck around this long, thank you for listening and watching the podcast. You can link to more podcasts up here or over here if you like what you heard. Enoch, thank you so much for being with us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.